Hi everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations, and this week I'm going to show you how you can make a simple wedding arch. My brother-in-law and my future sister-in-law are about to get married, and I have been given the task of making their wedding arbor. No stress, it's just the backdrop of the wedding, so I better get it right. It's a fairly simple project. What makes this complicated is the angles, which we'll get into later. The very first step that I want to do is take off these rounded edges, so I say let's hop to it. Taking off the rounded edges is an optional step. I just think it makes the timber look more finished and takes away the construction look of the timber. The timber I am using is 90 by 45mm construction timber. I purchased two 4.8 lengths and got the hardware store to cut a 2.7 length and a 2.1 from each. This meant I could get them home and they were easier to handle. I needed the length to be longer than 2.4, which is why I went with the 4.8 metre length. I will also quickly go over the measurements. We wanted the overall height of the arch to be 2.5 metres, and we didn't want it to be any wider than 1.8. This dictated needing an angle of 20 degrees. Here comes the tricky part, angles. What made this hard is the angle I wanted, I couldn't use the miter saw or the table saw, so I had to go old school. I used a protractor to mark a 20-degree angle. I then could use a straight edge to draw the line. I measured on the circular saw the distance from the blade to the edge. I could then use this measurement to mark where to clamp the straight edge down. To ensure the circular saw had enough support, I used the other 2x4 and clamped them together. This gave the saw good support and also helped when it came to clamping down the straight edge. Once I got one side cut, I rinsed and repeated for the other side. I'm up to the part where I need to put in my T-nuts and bolt everything together. A little tip for you, when you cut your angles, keep the offcuts because you can use that to clamp like I have here so that everything's nice and square. Then when you go to use your drill to drill in straight, it's much easier because you're referencing off already straight timber as opposed to angled, and then you're trying to get your drill at 90 degrees. It's just going to make everything a little bit cleaner and easier, and hopefully it'll come together really nicely. So we'll go ahead and get these done, and then we can move down to the bottom. Just going to cut in here real quick and explain what I have done. I was going to use T-nuts, but I was finding that they were coming back out of the wood when I was trying to drill my bolt into place. So what I've changed to is now threaded inserts. A little tip, I've gone and got myself a bolt. I've cut off the end with my Dremel. I've used a nut on here. Screw on your threaded insert halfway along. Use your nut to lock it into place. I'm going to put it into my drill, and then that will get it started into the slot, and then I can use a spanner to tighten it the rest of the way. Hopefully this will stop that from coming out, and then hopefully we can bolt this thing together and get moving to the next step. The threaded inserts were a much better idea. The method of using the drill to get the inserts started worked perfectly and also helped keep the insert straight. I gave the arch a quick test before moving to the bottom. Now I'll insert here the reason I'm bolting everything together. It's mainly for the ease of transport. You could just screw everything together on site, but I have ideas down the track of renting this out, so bolting it together gives it more longevity. I kept the arch bolted together while I cut the ends off. I measured down from the top 2.6 on both sides and clamped the straight edge across both pieces. Then, using the circular saw, I cut both pieces to the same length and put a 20-degree angle on the bottom so that it would sit flat to the bottom piece. The bottom of the arch is the easy bit. I simply measured 900mm and cut the pieces using the miter saw. I used a Forstner bit to drill down on the bottom side of the feet so that the bolt head would be recessed. Once I had the bolt countersunk, I could drill the hole all the way through. It just needs to be big enough to fit the bolt through. To mark where the threaded inserts needed to go, I used my workbench to clamp the pieces together and used a level to make sure the feet were straight. I then drilled through the feet and into the arch to mark for the inserts. I used the same method as before and put 2 inserts per foot. Now the design did call for a couple of brace pieces at the bottom, however the bride liked it the way it was and didn't want any pieces added, so it was on to sanding. I will note the arch did have some movement due to not having the support pieces at the bottom, but at the end of the day it's not holding up a huge amount of weight or going through a hurricane, so we should be okay. After sanding, I applied a couple of coats of clear just to protect it, and it was time to head to the wedding. On site, my brother-in-law and a friend gave me a hand putting it together, however you could easily put this together on your own.
The next day was the big day, and what a day it was, filled with love, laughter, and a lot of dancing. Everyone loved the arch, and it was a great feeling just to be a part of the day. After the ceremony, we moved the arch into the reception area, and it became the backdrop for all the guests' photos. Now I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, help me out by hitting those subscribe and like buttons, and I'll see you on the next project.